right, Matt. Well, I appreciate having you here on the Social Entrepreneurship and Innovation podcast. And for folks who are unfamiliar, would you mind introducing yourself and sharing with us a little bit as to what it is you do?
Yeah, sounds good. First off, it's great to be here. Thanks, Corey. So I'm Matt Wittek. I'm CEO and founder of a company called Fill It Forward. We at Fill It Forward care a lot about reuse. We think that reuse is just the easiest thing that you can do to help the planet and to make an impact. So we spend all of our days, thinking about a few things. Number one is product. What are the products that we can create to help promote and inspire people to reuse? How can we create and integrate technology with those products to make an impact, as well as many of our global giving initiatives around the world. So we've been doing this for many years. We're super passionate about it. We've got an awesome team here and some great partners that allow us to facilitate our programming.
And one of the things I came across when I was doing a bit of my due diligence beforehand in our chat here is a quote from you. I think it was like a Fill It Forward video, just introducing the company and quoting you. You said, you were thinking about when starting the company originally, thinking about how to turn a sustainable product into a sustainable movement.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd be interested to start there and see if you could say more about that, because that really struck me. And that seems very true with the things that you have going on outside of just these reusable products, these sustainable products. So I'd love for you to open up with that so I could learn a bit more as to what it is behind that sentiment.
Yeah, great question. So for us, we started out as a product company. We thought that product was a part of the solution, or the solution at the time, and that focus lasted for quite a while for us. It was about how do we create a new product that we could get in the hands of consumers, so that they could therefore make an impact. So a lot of our earlier conversations was about how can we keep water colder in a reusable bottle? Should we have a flip top? What about a reusable straw that goes in the cup or bottle? And all of those are, by the way, really important conversations to have. And there's a lot of companies that are doing that extremely well. And it continues to be a focus of ours, by the way, as well. But what we recognized over time was that product was just part of the solution. It wasn't the whole solution. There was much more to learn and evolve for us anyways as a company. So we started to think about technology. How can we integrate technology with our products to tell an even more compelling story? We started to think about, those folks that have their beat up old Nalgene bottle that they've used for many, many years. And how cool would it be if we knew the impact of that product and they knew the impact of that product from an environmental perspective? So for us, it's been about product, it's been about technology, but I think what's really proven to be our greatest innovation is around, and really where our focus is around giving, and that seems like pretty far-fetched, but really, we've innovated on product, we've innovated on technology, but I think that really the thing that's having the greatest impact for us is the innovation around our giving model. So once we started to tie those three things together and tell a compelling story, we thought that we could really play a part in this movement. And I say play a part because we are just a part. There's many organizations and many product companies that are doing incredible things that we look to for inspiration all the time. And our message has never been, hey, you should get a Cupanion bottle because it's the best bottle ever. That's not the message, because you should get the product that fits your lifestyle and use it, but we'd like you to integrate it with the Fill It Forward technology and track it and give back at the same time.
I love that sentiment because, especially there's guests we've had the privilege of having on the show, from Clean Canteen to Keep Cup, the space of reusables, who folks in the certified B Corporation space, 1% for the planet space, know very well. And I've thought about that too. What particularly struck me about Fill It Forward was so much that exists around the bottle and the products that y'all make, to where it has a very compelling, very engaging impact. And so I'm wondering, was there a particular inflection point when you were thinking through this as to where y'all started to really sharpen that angle to thinking, bigger than just the product and kind of having this, more encompassing movement as you described it? Was there anything that led you, or a trigger that kind of had you think, oh, this is where we need to focus?
Yeah, good question again. I think what I would say there is that we've had a couple, I think, and both of these moments for us, I think have been, they've been a really important part of our company growth and our evolution as a company. But, and, and really it started with our evolution from product to technology. And the reason that we made that shift from product to offering our technology as well was that, we were out in the marketplace, we'd launched a bunch of products, and we'd had some success, and we were seeing the products that were coming out from many other organizations, and they're all really great products. So, but we were also seeing companies like Starbucks, and not to point at Starbucks, I mean, they do tremendous things. They've done a lot from a reuse perspective. They have incredible product that's available, very good quality, reusable cups or mugs or bottles that you want. You can go into any Starbucks in the world and buy a good quality item that will last for the most part. They offer a discount. If you go into their locations, they'll give you 10 cents off. Up until COVID and this current situation, they were the best that I've seen as far as large food service operators that would take cups and mugs back, clean them, put in your hot coffee, and give them back to consumers, and often with a smile. And you didn't get that at most large scale fast food. Definitely at smaller cafes and coffee shops, they're doing a tremendous job. But so I really applauded them. But when you look at their reuse rates, they were extremely low. At that time, this is back a few years ago, I think the reuse rates were like 2.7 or 2.9%. And they had aspirations to really grow that and to improve that number, but they just couldn't seem to get over that 3%. And I don't know where it is today, but that's where the numbers were at the time. So what that said to us in a way, it is that product and execution wasn't the whole story. We had to really think about what was missing. And for us, we felt that technology could play a role, in getting that consumer to remember they're reusable when they go back to those locations, and perhaps inspire them to reuse it. So that was a huge learning for us as we evolved as an organization. So we set out to create our first app. It was very primitive, but we figured it out. We launched an app. We had a handful of schools that launched our programming back in 2016. And we had a little bit of success. We went from 3 schools to, I forget, maybe 15 schools the next year. And then we had 25. And now we have hundreds of schools that run our programming, thankfully. And, again, is technology the whole solution? It's not. Product is part of the solution. Technology is part of the solution. And then more recently for us, a very important learning for us was the connection to giving and what that could truly mean for a consumer. And that's probably the one I'm most excited about, our innovation around the giving model in particular. And that started because, when we first started the Fill It Forward initiative in 2012, it was a very traditional 1-for-1 model. Buy a bottle, we'll donate clean water. We partnered with a fantastic clean water organization called WaterAid, sorry. And WaterAid is doing tremendous work around the world. But our giving stopped the moment somebody bought a product, right? We could certainly connect and engage that user, but there wasn't this ongoing commitment with the user. So we started to think here internally, what would it look like if every time you drank water, you could give water? And what would that mean for our charitable partners? What would that mean for our corporate partners? What would that mean for our users? And we started getting really excited about this idea. But it had never been done. We couldn't really point to a model that worked. We left inspired by many companies like Tom Shoes or Warby Parker. The list goes on of companies and organizations that when you buy one, you give one. And it's a great model and one that we were inspired by. But we wanted to create this new sort of continuous giving model. So we set out to do that, and we did it. We figured out a business model that we think makes sense, that we're able to support our charitable partners, and consumers can now, and users of our program, can give clean water every time they refill their bottle. In effect, turning the tap on for someone else every time you turn the tap on for yourself. But I think what's most exciting about this, and when we look back, I think, 5 to 10 years from now, I think what we're going to understand is that not only was that a huge impact for our charitable partners and the people that are receiving the clean water, but I think what we're going to find is that it also had a huge impact for the people giving the water.
Mm.
All of a sudden, there's an appreciation for the fact that I can put water in my reusable water bottle, and just the gift of that in some way, that I'm able to do that where a lot of the world can't.
Mm.
And I think it sort of asks a consumer to think differently about a product, which I'm just super excited about. So long-winded answer, but you asked the question, right?
No, I appreciate it. And maybe there, you mentioned there, this delving into technology, app development, all this programming, working with schools and stuff like that. Like maybe that is why the folks we mentioned earlier, the Keep Cups or Clean Canteen might be like, yeah, that's why we don't do that thing. Cause it's almost like a completely different business, going from products to then, technology in the way that you did. So I'm curious to hear more about that pivot as it, goes from manufacturing products or, working with the supply chain to then, delving into technology, app development, all that kind of stuff. How was that transition? And, what did you kind of learn from that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, a lot of that we probably learned, as we went through it, like I guess any business. But, I think for us, part of the reason that we made that decision is that we looked at some of the companies that you just mentioned, right? Like Clean Canteen. Does the world need another Clean Canteen bottle? No. The Clean Canteen's done it. They've made it. It's beautiful. It's a great product. If that's in your budget, that's a great product to purchase for sure. And I'd say that all day long. And the same about Keep Cup. So the question became, do we want to go and compete against Clean Canteen and try to create a better stainless steel bottle when the world maybe doesn't need one, or is our role, is our part of the solution, is it something different? And if so, what does that look like? And so that's what we did, and we didn't have it figured out. I mean, we'd never launched an app before. We had no idea how to do that, but we figured it out slowly but surely, and we're still figuring it out in many ways. And I think, a big decision that we made early on was that we didn't want to solely integrate the technology with our own products. We thought that would be a real miss, because our mission is to inspire the world to reuse. Our mission isn't, inspire the world to reuse one of our products or our Cupanion bottle. So we very early on decided that we were going to make our program available to any bottle. The best reusable bottle you should have, and the one you should use, is the one that's already sitting in your cupboard that you maybe aren't using, right? So our suggestion is to take that bottle out of the cupboard, dust it off, put a Fill It Forward sticker on it, and participate in our programming and be part of the overall message. So that was, something we thought a lot about. I can't say it was like an easy transition. I can't say that, that there wasn't many challenges as we went through that process. But somehow, we were able to navigate it and come out the other side.
I love that style of thinking, attempting to put yourself kind of in your own category. Fill It Forward is its own business model. People aren't exactly doing it in the same way, anywhere else, like that sort of thing. Competing with the Clean Canteen, like, why would you do that? How can we kind of make ourselves completely unique in our own right? Not only that, with the stickers y'all have, that's complementary to their product. Like there's a good opportunity for some synergy and collaboration with a Clean Canteen or a Keep Cup or whomever. But now, you mentioned earlier that reuse rate, 2.7%, below 3%. Imagine with all the scans and tracking of this data, y'all are starting to get some interesting figures, perhaps, as to what might be the actual impact on the levels of reuse, but you do have these other elements in the giving, and as well, just, health in drinking more water, hydrating. So I'm interested, is there anything that you can share in what you found as far as the data that y'all are starting to aggregate from, what behavior change is going on and giving, reuse, and everything else?
Yeah, what we do know, some of the things that we've learned, as we've gone through the process would be, number one is that we don't think that that an effective reuse program is always just about a reward for the user. I think there is something very powerful in sharing the story of giving as well when someone's reusing. So the earlier versions of our app from about 2016 to 2018, it was really about rewards, effectively trying to displace the punch card that you would get at your college campus. Every time you reuse, you get a stamp, 10 stamps, you get a free refill or something. We thought that would be incentive enough, but we found it was okay. Like the results were just okay. They weren't that strong. But once we started talking about giving clean water every time you refilled, that became a game changer. And not to say that rewards, again, don't play a role. I think that they do. But I think the idea of giving and the idea of rewards and tracking your impact really is a game changer for people. As far as some of the stats that we talk about internally that we're just super proud of, number one, we're just about to hit 5 million single-use items diverted from oceans and landfill from our waterways. We're really excited about that number, as well as 209 water projects we've now funded around the world with some of the biggest water organizations doing the best work in the world. So we're just really excited about that, and that those are the numbers we tend to celebrate. And, although we're not working with Starbucks yet as it relates to, and we'd love to, but so we can't comment on their 2.7%, but we know that the programming that we have is making an impact because we see the numbers. We're calculating it. We're looking at it all the time. And our team rallies around that, and our clients rally around that too.
And so what's it like now to see those figures and the company now being about a decade in existence? We're creeping up on it. What's it like to have such success in sustainability? Because surviving for a decade is certainly a significant amount of time.
Yeah, gosh, I don't think about it often, because it feels like we have so much more work to do. And that's not my stock answer. We don't reflect often enough maybe on the work that we've done. I will say that, just a really proud moment maybe recently that we just went through a pretty big rebrand of our organization. And we had a couple of things that sort of happened throughout that process. Some of it was relating to COVID, right, in the current situation that we find ourselves in. But we had decided to create this virtual program for our users to use while they're at home, because we recognized that people were at home, during uncertain times. There was a lot of challenges that many were facing, including ourselves. But as an organization, we thought, how can we help? How can we be part of this conversation? And the answer wasn't that easy, right? Because if there's, can customers come to our site and support our programming and buy product? No, because at that stage our warehouse was even closed. Can they go to our charitable partners website and donate directly? Yes, they can, but we need to help educate. That's our role in this story. So we thought, well, what if we created a virtual program where somebody could be sitting at their home and they could scan the Fill It Forward tag virtually and give back? And what would that mean? Not only for our charitable partners that need it the most right now. That's a whole nother conversation. I mean, you think about how many times you've washed your hands over the last 8 or 12 weeks, and there's many places in the world where that's just not possible. So we were thinking a lot about that and how to support our charitable partners that are currently facing some challenges as well, lots of challenges. But more importantly, not more importantly, but rather to complement that, what does it mean for people that are sitting at home? And we believe that people are generous and people are kind, most people, and they're looking for these things. So we gave them a way to feel generous and connected. And the feedback was just humbling. We were able to fund a water project right here in Northern Ontario. We've now moved on to a new project with the similar programming in the Dominican Republic with one of our water charities, Wine to Water, they're called. So I don't know. It's sort of like being part of these conversations that we would have never dreamed of being a part of 10 years ago. I just get so excited about those things,
And so maybe pretty well open-ended, but looking backwards over the last 10 or so years, what do you think are some pretty important principles or themes that have led to you being in the position now with Fill It Forward to be a part of these really impactful, meaningful conversations? What's led to the success and sustainability of Fill It Forward?
Um, Great question. I think it's two things. Uh, the first would be, and it's probably many more than that. It's just two that came to mind.
Sure.
Uh, for me, the first would say to sort of know, we had a very early on, we understood that we weren't the whole solution, that we weren't possibly within our four walls going to solve this problem. It's a massive problem, single-use plastics and single-use items in general. It's a huge, huge issue. So understanding that no matter how hard we tried, we were not going to solve this problem on our own was something I'm very thankful that we understood early on. It didn't take us that long to figure it out. So we understood that we were just going to play a role. And our goal and our aim was to figure out what role that would be, and based on lots of factors. So we did that. And I think, secondly, something I've been thinking about more recently is once we shifted, our real growth started when we started to innovate on giving. And isn't that like fascinating, right? Mm-hmm. Our real growth didn't happen when we, created some new product that had a new feature, or our real growth didn't happen it started to happen when we started talking about technology, but it was really when we refined and created our now giving model that things really started to move forward for us. And we started to have a tremendous amount of momentum. And I think I don't know what that means outside of that it matters. Giving matters. People care about these things. And I think it's a reflection maybe on society, not to get too deep with it, but it's a reflection on, I think, who we all are as human beings, that's the thing that stuck. And if I look back 10 years from now and that's what we're known for, that's a huge win, something I'd be extremely proud of. And I know our team would be extremely proud of as well.
And so maybe the threads are very similar with what kind of advice you might share, but for some of these maybe earlier stage or younger sustainable products companies, are there any sort of things that you seem to notice as maybe common mistakes that they might make, or things that they may just not see because they're so in the weeds themselves that someone with the experience working through it might be able to point to them and say, hey, this could be a great growth opportunity for your community, for the impact you can make for your business? Is there anything that you see that's kind of a common hang up for some of these earlier stage companies?
Corey, to be honest, I don't see maybe a common mistake. I think some of the stuff that I'd probably say to that is maybe obvious. I would talk to the fact that consumers are smart. People aren't going to be duped. They're looking for transparency. Our model just continues to get more and more transparent, and which is extremely important. I think the minute that you make it about yourself in some way, and there's times when it has to be to be able to appropriately share your story and inspire your community, whatever that looks like. You have to be willing to share your story. I get it. But I think the more that you can make it about something bigger than maybe who you are as an individual or who you are as a company is the time it gets really, really interesting. One of the decisions that we made early on that might be helpful is, when we first launched the Fill It Forward initiative back in 2012, it was more of, as I mentioned, more of a buy one, give one model. And at the time, it appeared as though a lot of companies, what they were doing was basically, in our case, maybe hiring a film crew, going over to Africa, getting a bunch of footage of them building a well, and sharing it on their social media channels and their website and telling the story that way. And we looked at that, and although it's a good thing, there's a lot of good companies that are doing that really well and supporting. And so I don't want to, this isn't a critique on that, but that was the more traditional sort of path. Mm-hmm. But for us, when we looked at that, I thought, wouldn't it be better if we just partnered with a water charity and gave them money and gave them the resources, provided the resources, and tried to educate our growing community on the amazing work that they were doing, and not make it about us, because it's really them that are doing the heavy lifting as it relates to the work that we do in the field. So, so that was a decision we made super early on. And I think it was a really important one for us, because we know, as an example, you know, when something happens in the field, if a tap doesn't work, or a filter needs changing, or, you know, whatever might need to happen, we need to make sure that people know how to fix the problem, and that there's resources available to these communities that can fix the problem. And we knew that what we're good at, again, it's understanding who we are. What we're good at is not building wells. That's not our expertise. We love to be part of that process, but it's not where we should be. So in partnering with the right charitable partners, we had the utmost confidence that these things were getting done, and that we had the confidence, in doing what we should be doing, and that's promoting the active reuse in different ways, and allowing them to do the heavy lifting and do what it is that they do. So I don't know if I fully answered your question, but that was one like early learning, and we didn't know at the time if that was the right model, because what you lose is you lose some of that storytelling capability, right? But we thought it was important enough to share that and really put the spotlight on our charitable partners.
And I mean, it seems to be that you're truly putting the mission there first. You know, if there's something that you can do to just put the fuel on the fire of someone's already exceptional work, then so be it. That's probably the quickest way to make the largest impact possible. And it seems that that's pretty thematic of, you know, wanting to lean on partners, but as well, you know, really figuring out the unique space for y'all at Fill It Forward. So that's good advice, most certainly. So I appreciate you sharing. And one more bit of that I think I'll mine you for. I picked up what seemed to be a local talk at you're gonna forgive me if I mispronounce Guelph. Is that
Guelph? You got it.
Guelph? Okay.
Yeah, the University of Guelph.
Oh, there you go. But I picked up a video where you were sharing some of the financial decisions that you made in starting the company originally about, you know, in 10 years ago, 2012. And there's three things that you mentioned that I thought phenomenal piece of advice, but there's so many misconceptions as to, you know, what it takes in timeline and effort and risk and energy in starting a company, let alone a social impact based company. You mentioned a few things, you know, to come prepared, you know when to pour fuel on the fire of a business, and then, you know, think about what is the actual right time to go out and find the outside investment. So you were essentially bootstrapping the company from the very beginning. Is that right?
It is, yeah, and we continue to be bootstrapped as well. It was, you know, a decision that we made again early on, that we wanted to control the destiny as much as possible of the company. And not to say again, you know, that there's anything wrong with outside investment. Those are really good things for the right organizations, right? Some you need it, you know, to get to that next level. For us, we've chosen a different path, and that's allowed us to really understand who we are as an organization and allow ourselves to grow at our own pace, which just wouldn't have been possible if there was outside influence or investment. It would have been a different dynamic. And I think it's honestly one of the best decisions that we made. Not to say that we haven't been approached, not to say that we, you know, haven't had conversation, but for us to be able to just sort of evolve at our own pace has been such a huge benefit, you know, for the whole company.
I love that, because I think there's something very appealing and attractive about being whatever is the type of company, or just being a company that is seeking outside investment, seeking outside capital. But you mentioned in coming prepared to that situation that you quote, and you may have been exaggerating a little bit, but you sold nearly everything except the family home at that point. So I'm interested to hear what kind of risk did you feel like you took on when you're becoming a full-time entrepreneur and taking on this endeavor? And how was that, you know, managing that and wanting to meet that trajectory with growth and earnings that you need to make the company and your living sustainable?
Yeah. How much time do we have, Corey? I mean, that's a long answer, but you know, I'll try to give you the short version of it. So in 2012, I went to my wife, who at the time was very pregnant, maybe 3 months pregnant with our third daughter. And I said, I think now's the time for me to leave my job and do this entrepreneurial thing. And she knew when she married me that was like, at some point something I'd love to explore. And she really had belief and faith in me that we could do this. And I had total faith that we could do this together. We could figure it out. So I left my job, very well-paying job, in the Toronto area, working with a team that I really respected and doing meaningful work, to be honest. Like, I loved it, loved everything about it, but I just knew that there was something else for me. So I came to her and we did that. At the time, we had made some investments in rental properties. So I think we had a couple of rental properties at the time that we sold, and that basically gave us enough runway to maybe cover 12 months. So we knew we had 12 months of runway. We knew we knew at the time we had a baby on the way. So it felt like we were making a huge gamble, a huge risk, and because we went to zero income, and my wife, was staying home with the kids. So we were literally at zero income, but it just believed wholeheartedly that we'd find a way to make it work. So went to work in my basement. At the time, we thought we'd have one product. So we had one product that we were selling. I understood really quickly that the one product didn't have a strong enough value proposition, nor, was my message really sinking in. And so I knew that I'd made a big decision, and I wasn't sure if it was the right path, So I went to my wife, Brenda, and I said, hey, I think I have to take a few months off of this thing, and I need to refocus on who we want to be as a business. I need to focus on, who were the clients that we want. I need to focus on like who we are truly going to be, to make this work, because this one product's not going to do it. And she again, we agreed, and, we chatted it through. And I literally spent the next 3 months, I stopped selling. And keep in mind, we've only got 12 months of runway, right? So big decision. I was only like 2 or 3 months in. My wife probably thought I was crazy, and I probably was. But so I spent the next 3 months really just figuring it out, trying to figure out what the business plan looked like, trying to figure out what we were going to offer in the market that would be different and that would be of value, to people, to planet, to my clients, to everything. And we basically started from scratch. But when I reflect on that time, as stressful and as hard as that was, because it was all of those things, many sleepless nights, that was a critical time for us. If we had have just kept pounding the pavement with that one product, I don't know where we'd be today. But we took that 3 months, we really dug in. And, the Philip Ford initiative was created around that time. We made a decision around, creating new products. Technology would come later for us, but we sort of made some early decisions that would really provide the framework for where we are as an organization today. So that's the Coles Notes, Corey. I don't know if your listeners know what Coles Notes is, but it's a short version of how our organization started. But tremendous risk, and when I think about it, it was also extremely rewarding now.
Does it feel even weirder to kind of be in where you all are at now with Philip Forward after touching on that first year?
Yeah. I think if you had said to me, back in 2012, that we would talk in 2020, and, we'd have to do it by Zoom because, everybody's at home. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, right? But if you had said to me, we're going to look back, and you're going to have a team, you're going to have clients, global clients around the world that are all trying to do the right thing, that are going to support your programming. You're going to make an appearance at Super Bowl, which we did last year, which was a lot of fun. And the year before that, and you're going to have NFL fans getting excited to reuse their bottle. I would have thought you're crazy. But here we are, and it hasn't been easy, many bumps in the road, many challenges, but we've been able to overcome them. Build some resiliency along the way, make an impact, try to celebrate that where possible. But for the most part, just keep our heads down and keep getting work done, moving towards the goal.
Excellent. Matt, you mind if I ask you a few rapid fire or semi rapid fire questions before we tidy up here?
Happy to do it.
All right. First off, any favorite books that have impacted you that you love to recommend, either something recent or that you always come back to?
I've many books that I would recommend. I mean, I've got a couple right here on my desk. Actually, one that I'm just reading now called Thirst by Scott Harrison. He's the founder of Charity Water. This is going to be a random thing to say, and I'm even hesitant to share it with you right now on your podcast. But there was like a book so we were just talking about my daughter, and so fast forward to September of 2012, and she's born, right? Her name's Maeve. I have I have an 11-year-old, I have a 9-year-old now, and a 7-year-old. One of the books I used to read them was called Little One Step, and it was about this little, I don't know if you've ever heard of this book. It's a children's book, and it's like this duck, and I even forget now, it's been many years, but there's the duck who's like trying to keep up with its siblings, and the advice the mother duckling gives is, just take one step at a time. And so they called him Little One Step, so he would eventually sort of take the step, take the next step, take the next step. But the timing of that book for me, I used to keep it on my desk at work because when you don't know, when there's so much uncertainty, when you're facing so many challenges, often it's just about that next step, just taking that step. So that book served as a reminder for me to just take that next step day in and day out. And when I think about, I haven't thought about that book in a long time, and I may have got part of the story wrong for those that may be listening that know it, but it's just about that one step and moving forward. Right. So maybe not the answer you're looking for, but the truthful one.
No, that's very sage advice though for the impact driven entrepreneur, especially the early stage one, as there's so much uncertainty present. I guess following that, are there any particular daily habits or morning routines that you feel like you really have to stick to?
For me, I've read a lot about daily routines and try to hack the process. For me, I just, I wake up, I'm thankful for the day, I try to find those moments of gratitude, reflection points in my morning routine. I try to, spend as much time with my kids before I get off to work, especially these days. They're all at home right now, not at school, but so I try to find those moments. When the weather's nice, I'm biking in. I've got some nice trail rides on the way in that I love, and I come to work happy and excited, and it works for me, I guess.
And then maybe along those lines, are there particular hobbies or enthusiasms that you find yourself occupied with evenings and weekends?
Yeah, for me right now, there's a lot of challenges that the businesses are facing all over the world. So to be totally honest, right now, I'm pretty consumed in trying to move our message forward and, keeping our business moving forward. So I'm spending a lot of time thinking about those things. On the weekends, I'm trying hard just to enjoy my time with my kids. It's hard to believe, like here we are talking about the sort of start of our business, and 2012, it feels like yesterday. My kids are already like 7, 9, and 11. So I'm trying to enjoy as much time with them as possible, especially on the weekends.
That's fair. All right, Matt, last question, maybe more open-ended than rapid fire, but what do you feel like you've learned now about this and maybe feel most optimistic or hopeful about this issue of single-use waste and promoting the practice of reuse?
So what am I most excited about, Corey? Or
yeah, or what understandings do you feel like you have now today that you didn't have 8-10 years ago? And maybe along those lines, what has you hopeful about these issues that Philip Ford is on a mission to tackle?
Right. I see. Yeah, I would say that I now know that people care. People want these types of initiatives. People want to make a difference. People want to have an impact. And I know that and believe that now more than ever. Early days, like literally my whole career, I've been promoting and selling, reuse in some way, like from my very first job out of university. And I just love it. But early on, I would say it was an uphill battle. Like thinking back, that started for me back in 2003. At that time, people were like, there was cotton bags on the bottom shelf of grocery stores, and nobody was using them.
Mm.
And even like early on, I remember having these conversations with people, and they just they didn't get it. They didn't care, maybe, for the most part. But together with a lot of organizations that are really like helping to drive this change, awareness has increased a lot, especially, the last couple of years. So I know that people care. And once you know that, once you know that people care and they want to make an impact, then our job is to try to get in front of them and try to share our story and serve some value to them in their thinking and their process. So I guess that would be my big sort of takeaway, and maybe it's an obvious one, but I guess my opportunity to give a big shout out to all the companies and organizations that have been pushing this message forward for a really long time.
Mm. Wonderful. And any parting asks for our audience here, Matt?
No, I mean, if your audience is interested to learn more about our programming, I guess I would give a plug. You could check out fillitforward.com. If you have a reusable at home, we hope that you'll get a Fill It Forward sticker, put it on, and participate in our programming. We're just about to launch a new app that's coming out, looking like next week, which we're really, really excited about, new version of the app. So, yeah, if you're listening and want to support or even just to learn more, check us out. We hope you'll do that.
Perfect. We'll have everything linked up in the show notes at growensemble.com. Thanks a lot, Matt.
Awesome. Thanks, Corey.